In today's video, we're going to be building a Paulk bench, or the Paulk Smart Bench. This is designed and also inspired by and developed by Ron Paulk. I'll get a link his website in there where you can buy the plans. I bought the plans from Ron, so I don't expect me to share these plans with you with the measurements and everything, because it's only right that you purchase the plans for $10 from his website, since the guy spent about 10 years actually designing and developing this bench and making the plans and putting them out there for you. So Ron, thank you for doing that for everybody. And so I'm going to direct everybody to your site so that they can buy these plans and make a bench for themselves. So basically this video is going to be for the method that I'm going to use to build the bench. So like I said, don't expect me to tell you any measurements as I'm doing it. I did change just a couple of the measurements anyway, and that's why you can see this top row here is one offset. If I had done it exactly to the plans, everything would have been exactly even. So since I changed just a few small things up there, I just did one offset row. So that's why you see these are just about 32 millimeters apart as opposed to 96 on center. Okay, so let's get started with this bench. All right, so let's get down to business now. I'm going to break down the 4x8 sheets of plywood, and I'm going to do that using the Festool STM 1800 table. Festool now has this permanently in their lineup, so you should be able to purchase it. If there is a link available, then I'll link it in the description for you. First thing I do is rip one edge straight and clean it up. This way the factory edge is gone. I start with a nice straight line. Then I'm using my TSO parallel guides, and these are the 50-inch out of the 30-50 set. I did a whole video on this, so you can check that out, and it's also on my channel. But this is where these 50-inch parallel guides come in handy. Okay, so now I cut the top to the width that I need. I still need to cut it to the length, but I need to cut that and the bottom at the same exact time, because I need that exact measurement on both. And the repeatability, we can't use the MFT because this is too wide to cut on the MFT, so we can't use the stop block on the MFT. So this is one of my favorite features about the TSO parallel guides, is that I have the drop-on connectors, the adapters that only work with the Festool rails. So I just remove that inside piece, and now what I have is the ability to just take this off, pop this one off, just like that. Remember, there's just a little bit of tension on the rail there, so it's going to be exact when I put it back on the rail to cut the other piece. So now I can just take these and move these out of my way real quick. And now that I have those removed, and I need to remove the rail so that I can get this piece off of the STM, I can just take this, spin it around, put it right there on top of the miter saw, and then I can take this top out of the way, because we need to put this back later and cut the length of this at the same time as the bottom. I'll square off one edge with the guide rail square, and then I'll have both pieces, top and bottom, sandwiched together and clamped on so I can cut them at once. Then I'll measure out, and then I'll square off the other side, both pieces at the same time. That'll make them identical. So now I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to bring the other 4x8 sheet up on the STM, and I'm going to cut that to the same size using the parallel guides. Again, I'm going to cut off about 6 millimeters here, or just roughly like 1/4 inch for optimizing dust collection to rip a nice straight clean edge. Flip my rail around. Now I haven't moved my stop blocks, so they're still set at the same dimensions that I need them to be to cut this bottom the same as the width of the top. Push my rail in there. All I gotta do is take this, drop it right on the rail. This, drop it right on the rail. That's it. Now, bring my stop blocks in, right from the center. Push it in just like that, ready to make a cut. Okay, so I moved the track out of the way. I have the bottom there, the top is over there. These cut-off pieces here are going to serve me as the sides. And I have my reference edge on this side, so I'm going to take my reference edge here. Keep those both together like this. Okay, so what I did here is I sandwiched them together. I put clamps on them to hold them in place. Everything is flush. Now I'm going to square up both ends at the same time. I'm going to take my guide rail square. This is the GRS-16 PE. And this just slides right in, just like that. And then hooks into your rail. You just pop the clip down. That's it, it's ready to go. Make sure it's touching both sides. And now I have to remember this is now 36 millimeters in thickness. So roughly 1.5 inches. So I'm going to have to do is adjust the depth of the track saw to cut through both. Perfect. So now that this is my reference or squared off edge, I'm going to measure off down this way, make my mark. And since I still want to reference off the same side that I cut that one, all I have to do is loosen this clip, slide the rail square down to this edge here, tighten that up there. Now I can move that to my mark. So now that I have these pieces for the sides broken down into manageable, thinner pieces, I can cross-cut them using the MFT table here and utilizing the stop block. You can see I have my MFTs, they are connected together with the MFT connectors, and that gives me the perfect length. And you can see that I'm utilizing the work table that I just recently built, and that's going to be for my offcuts. So I have all my parts cut to the length and the width, just stack them all together. And now I'm rolling out my table here, and I'm utilizing it to make all the markings for the openings on the sides. And that's going to be not only for the framework, but it's also going to allow me to get the tools on the inside of this. If you've ever seen the Paulk bench before, and you will see at the end of this video, it has holes in the side. And that's not just for weight relief, it also serves dual purpose. And so now I'm marking everything out because I'm going to cut these out with the track saw and then finish them off with the jigsaw. So now I'm using a drill with the hole saw on the end, and what I'm doing is drilling out holes in the corners, relieving those corners so that when I use the track saw, I can cut right to those lines, and there's really not going to be much cleanup to do. Now if you do this on top of a foam board on top of your bench, then you don't have to worry about cutting into your bench or drilling into your bench, and you won't have to worry about ruining it at all. And just I use a bunch of pieces of scraps of like foam insulation board about 1 inch thick, and when I make cuts with the track saw on the new workbench top, I also use scraps of plywood, and that just supports the workpiece and allows you to keep your bench a lot longer. Now I found that for me, using the track saw and just cutting right to my lines with the guide rail, it allows me to get it right to the corners, and then I could just clean everything up with the jigsaw because it's still going to have just a small connection in there, because I try to stay away from the end of the line a little bit just so that I don't overcut it. Once I have all the pieces of the side cut out, I'll just take a small 1/8 inch round over bit with the trim router and just ease over those edges. Alright, now we're starting to get somewhere. I'm going to start to assemble one side of the frame work of the bench here, and you're going to see in just a couple of seconds that my workbench is actually too small because this is going to be larger than the workbench. So I'll just show you a little technique I'm going to use to assemble this. Now since this table, this Paulk workbench is going to be bigger than this bench, I didn't have the capacity of this top here to screw the whole thing together. So to make the skeleton here, or the subframe of this, what I did was take the top of the Paulk bench and put it down on my work surface here to give me that extra room, since this is going to be the same size as the frame here. What I was able to do now is get that extra real estate of table that I need to put the frame together to have everything attached and stay flat and square. I'm going to assemble all these parts with glue and trim head screws, and that'll be plenty of strength. Okay, so now what I've done is cut a spacer that's going to allow me to get a consistent spacing between here and here when I screw in the inner workings of this frame. So I'm just going to take the spacer, butt it up against here, and the way I cut it is so that it's 9 millimeters on this side from the center. This is 18 millimeter plywood, so that 9 millimeter offset right there gives me the exact center where I need to screw in my piece to. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue and then screw it in with some trim head screws. So now I'm using trim head screws more so as a clamping mechanism so that the glue can set up. That's where the real strength for the assembly is going to be. But I like to use the trim head screws because they also have a tendency to split less on the plywood. And depending on the grade of plywood that you get, you could be doing a lot of splitting out, even if you countersink and when you're using like a regular bugle head screw. So the trim head screws, you don't even need to pre-drill really. I'm just doing it so that I can, kind of have my whole pattern of where I want everything to be. I'm just putting some glue on the top of the framework so that I could sit the top and bottom on there and then clamp it in place just so it doesn't move while I'm screwing it down. And you can see some of the spots I started to drill that were a little close to the end, but after a while I kind of got a little fed up, and said I wanted to speed this up, and I just started to screw them in without pre-drilling, and it's just a lot quicker. And you can see nothing's splitting out. It's not bulging any of the plies of the internal parts of the plywood. So now I'll just flip it over so that I can do the same to the bottom here. Once I get this thing flipped upside down, I'm just going to repeat the process on the bottom here. It's the same, just going to screw in the top, a little bit of glue, clamp it down so it doesn't move. Once I do that, just a little quick sanding. It's easier to do now than later. Okay, so the bench is done for the most part for the construction part of it. I'm going to take it off of my regular assembly table now because it's getting kind of high, and I don't want to start making the dog holes this high up and working from this angle because it's going to hurt my shoulders. So rather than mess around with that, I'm just going to take it off the bench temporarily and set it up on portable sawhorses. Now, eventually I'm going to make the actual sawhorses that go with the plans. But for right now, I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to take it off here, put it on some regular sawhorses, and we're going to use those. So this thing is super stable. It's not going anywhere. Just throw the tools underneath, but now we need to make some dog holes on here. The Paulk guide system, the Mark II. I have a video on this. Definitely make sure you head over to my channel and check that out. I'm also going to have an affiliate link for this and all the other TSO tools that you see me use in this video to make this bench. So now let's get started with the layout. Okay, so the way I'm going to lay this out is I'm going to make a mark at the center of my bench. So I'm going to start with that. Now I can't give you the exact dimensions here because like I said, it's in the plans and I don't want to mess up Ron's plans. It's not right. So I'm going to mark off my center. There's my starting point. Okay guys, so we've been here before. Now you saw me do this on the work assembly tabletop, and now I'm using it on the bulk bench here to make perfect dog holes that are going to be perfectly 90 degrees to each other for clamping and squaring things up. And this tool has actually, become one of my favorite things right now, and I've already used it now in two different situations. I'm going to be using it later on also for my MFTs when they get really cut up pretty bad and I have to replace those tops. So I have a whole video on this, so you can check that out. I'm going to put an affiliate link also to the Mark II system for the UJK Paulk guide. I think it's really the easiest way to get these dog holes done on any worktop, and you get perfect results every time as long as you follow the instructions. And I have a pretty good video on that, so just go ahead on my channel and check that out. So I used the router with the chamfer bit, and I rounded over the edge a little bit with a slight chamfer here. That's to keep it from chipping. I also quickly added a handle, and I just did that by drilling out 2 sections with the hole saw and then just plunging in with the track saw. And you can see I just had the router in there real quick. That's where I'm going to be storing the tools as I use them when I'm working. And this handle not only gives you a little bit of weight relief in here, but at the same time it also helps me when I'm going to carry it. So I'm going to flip this back over, and you can see all the dog hole pattern in this right here. I'm going to bring it back down just like this. And now I'm going to chamfer the inside of each one of the dog holes. Okay guys, so if there's any of the tools involved in this video here that you've seen me use, that you think you may need, parallel guides, rail square, also one of my new favorites, the torque guide system, which comes with all the good stuff. Time elapsed for doing all the dog holes on this size workbench. Everybody's going to ask, I know that they're going to ask me, because when I did the assembly table worktop, and it was just a smaller pattern, which probably was about less than 3/4 of the amount of holes that I had on that than I have on this bench. This took me drilling out everything, laying it all out, drilling the first set of holes with the 3mm bit that located everything, and then going back with the PARF locator dogs and the pins and everything, and drilling it out with that Forstner bit. The whole thing took me about 1 hour and 15 minutes from start to finish. Obviously I didn't go straight through 1 hour and 15 minutes straight. You know, I stopped here and there to do things and, you know, move things around and just take a couple of seconds break. So if you're a machine and you want to go through the whole thing, probably I would say be able to do it in about 35 to 40 minutes. So that's without stopping. I have an affiliate link in the description. I also have it on my channel. If you go to the channel, there's an About section. So check the description box first, and you'll see my affiliate link to this. You're not going to pay any more for the products. They're just going to share a small portion with me. Okay, guys, so head over to Ron's site. Definitely pick up a set of his plans. It's a PDF, so you pay $10. You get the plans. You can download them, and you can print them out, and then you can make your workstation. This is going to serve me greatly in the upcoming months and years. Going to be bringing this to all my job sites. It probably weighs about just 1 sheet of plywood, because the inner workings of this skeleton are so, they're designed to be weight relieved, so to speak, while keeping everything flat and structurally stable. So the cool thing is that I can use the tools and put them in the bench, and that's what I have to get used to now, because I'm used to just, you know, working with stuff, and then as I use it, I take it and I just push it off to the side of the bench like this, and then I'm working here and I knock things over and things are in my way. Now that I have the tool to put it down here, I just have to remember that I have to do that. Something new to get used to. Right now I have it sitting on these portable folding sawhorses. Eventually what I'm going to do is, when I get some more time in the plans, Ron has a whole section on building the sawhorses that are made specifically for this bench. And what I really like about that design is they have these little wings that stick out on those sawhorses, where you can actually store your material that you're ready to cut. You take it up from the sawhorse legs and you drop it on the top of the bench and do what you have to do, or bring it over to your miter saw. So this is a really good, thought out, well-designed bench. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, I have a lot more to come. I'm planning, I think, in the next video to do that comparison between the Cyclone, the CT Cyclone from Festool, and the shop vac with the dust stopper. So stay tuned for that. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button, hit the picture of a notification bell. That's going to notify you every time I upload a new video, which is going to be very soon, because I got a lot going on in the shop here, so stick with me guys. Alright, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.